Men support abortion just as much as women do. We have such a spiritual sickness in our country that most people celebrate the idea that babies are going to be murdered in the womb. We have to be honest about the fact that the abortion industry preys on women. Even if the men wanted them to, women would not get abortions. It would pretty much solve the issue. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Shift with Gina. Today, we are going to talk about a not so fun topic, but it is a hot topic after the general election on Tuesday. You probably heard that voters in Ohio approved a ballot initiative that places a right to an abortion in the state's constitution, essentially making abortion legal at any point in pregnancy. So let's talk about that today. There are a lot of things I want to cover in this topic. This has sparked a conversation of whether conservatives and the right should be more moderate on their takes on abortion. And there are a lot of people on the right even who are saying that because conservatives want an all-out ban on abortion, that's why we keep losing on the issue, and that's why we keep losing elections. We'll talk about that, and we'll also talk about the cultural aspect of the topic of abortion and how I think the cultural aspect is even more important than what's happening politically. But first, don't forget, ladies, to join The Shift. Click the link in the description. The Shift is my online women's community. We focus mostly on health and wellness. We do a lot of exclusive content over there too. I have some great interviews with holistic practitioners, some doctors, an OBGYN, nutritionists, and we do a lot of content there that we're not able to put on public social media. Talk about some things related to health and wellness that we're not allowed to talk about on YouTube, because I already have a strike on this channel for an unlisted video where I brought on a doctor and he said the V word. So we have all of our censored stuff on The Shift. We're also in the middle of a morning routine challenge. So anyone out there who wants to join and fix your morning routine, it's just as simple as 10 minutes. And every month we start a new challenge. So next month we'll start something new as well. So if you're a woman, sorry, guys, only ladies allowed in the group. Click the link in the description. If you're a man listening and you have a wife, a girlfriend, a sister, a mom who might be interested, share the link with them. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about what happened with this Ohio bill here. So this took place on Tuesday, and a lot of people are really upset about this because it's really similar to what happened in Michigan. So I'm going to read first what happened to you in Michigan. Michigan passed a similar amendment last year, and people in Michigan were sold the lie that parental rights would not be affected and that late-term abortion would remain illegal under this amendment being passed. It turned out to be a total lie because just recently, I think in just the last few weeks, the Michigan legislature voted to repeal penalties for partial birth abortions and to eliminate health and safety protections at abortion facilities. And they're now calling parental consent laws unconstitutional. So this is essentially where Ohio is headed now. Ohio has approved this ballot initiative that places a right to an abortion in the state's constitution. You've probably seen the videos of women cheering and screaming and crying out of happiness because they now are able to kill their babies pretty much up until the point of birth. And that is where the state is headed. And obviously this is a really sad thing because you guys probably know by now, I don't use the term pro-life or pro-choice. I think both of those terms are propaganda. Neither of those terms are actually descriptive and are truthful about the issue. I use the terms pro-abortion and anti-abortion. I don't see, first of all, the term pro-choice it's such propaganda because there's no such thing as having the choice to kill somebody, regardless of where that person is located, regardless of the size of that person, regardless of the age of that person. You do not have a right, you do not have a choice to kill a human being, even if that human being is in your womb. So I don't use the term pro-choice. So you're going to hear me use the terms pro-abortion and anti-abortion. It's important to know that The initiative in Ohio brought in millions in spending, with more than $18 million being spent in favor of the pro-abortion initiative. And you know how much was spent in opposition? Only $7 million. So there's already a huge financial discrepancy here. Lila Rose tweeted about this yesterday, I think shortly after this news broke. She said, "Money matters. Pro-abort outspent pro-life by $12 million. Party support matters. Democratic Party put the money in. GOP is not matching the cash." So if we really want to talk about this from a political point of view, we have to really be honest about how much money is being put into these initiatives, because the anti-abortion initiative is just not getting the funding the same way that the pro-abortion side is. And the left has always been really good at two things. They've been really good at mobilizing on the ground, at grassroots efforts, particularly when it comes to these radical issues like on-demand abortion. The left is really good. They've been good at this for decades. They're good at propaganda. They're good at twisting the truth. They're good at wording, the pro-abort wording of issues like this. It's deceptive and it's confusing. They're really good at that. But the second thing that the left is really good at is they're really good at funding. They're really good at getting the money and funneling it in to the right place. And no, it's not like the GOP doesn't have money. Of course, the GOP has money. It's just that the GOP is spending the money very poorly, and they're being outspent enormously when it comes to pro-abortion and anti-abortion issues. So this whole thing sparked a long conversation and a big debate online about whether conservatives are losing elections and they're not winning because they refuse to compromise on abortion. This is a really big thing now everyone's talking about. You hear a lot of people who are on the right, like people like Mike Cernovich. He's a lawyer, filmmaker, author. I love Cernovich. Most of the things that he says I'm on board with. He talks a lot about this, about how he really believes that conservatives are just too stuck on being fully anti-abortion and they're not willing to compromise, which just means that we lose. There's a lot of people who are jumping on this train, and now the left has even jumped on that train, and they're teasing us. They're making fun of us by saying, "Man, I hope you guys keep being anti-abortion fully, because it's going to keep you losing all of your elections, and we're going to keep winning." I don't think we're losing because of that. I think we're losing for a lot of reasons, but it's not because we are staunch on abortion. In fact, I don't think the right is that hardcore about abortion. I think that you have people online, you have influencers, you have podcasters who are very anti-abortion. Obviously, people like Matt Walsh and Lila Rose, Allie Beth Stuckey, but you don't have the GOP and you don't have politicians on the right who are diehard anti-abortion. You just don't. And that's why this whole thing of, the pro-life message is a political loser. Okay, well, how many Republican candidates have actually fought back hard and effectively on this issue? For example, like how many of these Republican candidates have actually ran ads against their opponents that are truthful and say, hey, this is what happens in a third trimester abortion. Hey, this is what happens in a second trimester abortion. They use the forceps, they go into the womb, they rip out the baby's legs, they rip out the baby's arms, and then they crush the baby's skull and they pull all of the pieces out and they vacuum the rest out from the woman's uterus. There have been no Republican candidates who run their campaign on the truth about abortion. So Republican candidates are not even fighting hard enough about abortion. There are no Republican candidates who are diehard anti-abortion. They're all squishy. They're all squishy about it. They say platitudes like life begins at conception. A few of them, not all of them. Actually, a lot of Republican candidates, because the GOP is totally spineless, they're not strong enough to be pro-life entirely and say that life begins at conception. But even the ones that do, they just say vague, sort of flowery language like life begins at conception and life is precious. Of course, that's true, but you're not running these ads attacking Democratic opponents for supporting the dismemberment and murder, the vicious murder of babies, of infants in the womb. They're not calling it infanticide. They're not calling it murder. They're not going hard enough on the anti-abortion message. So this whole argument that, well, we're losing because we're too anti-abortion, we're not. The GOP is not. So if we were going this hard on the message and we kept losing, maybe I'd be willing to have that conversation. But I don't know what people are talking about. I don't know what world you live in that you think that the GOP candidates are diehard in abortion. I don't see that. Okay, you know what? If you want to prove me wrong, I would love to see some ads from Republican candidates, from conservative candidates that go hard at the pro-abortion side and that show the disgusting, heinous act of what abortion truly is, even what a medical abortion is. Like, there aren't even ads coming from the Republican Party about what it means to take an abortion pill, what happens to the baby in the womb, starving the baby of nutrients, letting the baby shrivel up and die. I don't see anybody doing that. And you see an organization like Live Action, Lila Rose's nonprofit organization. They do an excellent job at running a lot of ads for their organization and doing a lot of man on the street interviews where they show people a video of what an abortion actually is. That's how I became staunchly anti-abortion. 2017 was the first time I ever saw a video. What do you call, not a graphic. What's it called when they do like the cartoon video, a demonstration? What's it called? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like it's like a fake, people in the comments, what's the word I'm looking for? They do like a fake reenactment of what an abortion actually is. No, he doesn't know what I'm talking about. So the first time I ever saw a video like that was in 2017. And that blew my mind because I think a lot of women don't actually know what an abortion is. Because a lot of reasons, but the biggest reason is because we have been programmed for many, many years to think that it's a woman's right to abortion, to think that it is a women's empowerment issue. So when we think of something as a women's rights issue, we think of it as you have to support it. It's necessary. So they're not ever honest about how vicious it is. I just thought like an abortion, like you take a pill and the baby like goes away. I was never informed about what an abortion actually is. So what Lila Rose and Live Action are doing is extremely effective. The GOP does not do any of that. They're so squishy. They're so spineless. They refuse to run ads attacking their opponents. It's the most basic strategy. It really is. It's a layup. It's a softball. It's such an easy one. And I think I forgot who tweeted this, but it might have been Matt Walsh. He was like, go on the offense and tell the truth. I don't see any Republican candidates doing that. So look, you guys know that I'm not, when it comes to culture and politics, I'm not big on the politics side. I'm much bigger on the culture side. But I can tell you right now from what I see, I didn't watch the election on Tuesday and the results too closely. But from what I can see, I don't get where people are coming from when they're talking about us, the conservatives, losing because we're not willing to compromise on abortion. What do you mean? We're compromising. The GOP is compromising all the time with abortion. Yeah, there are some instances where they're not, but it's for the most part, generally, the GOP loves to compromise on abortion. And they've been saying this for years. This is like such a, how do you call? It's a very used play out of the playbook of the establishment Republican Party. They have always said that that conservatives should compromise on abortion. They've been saying it for years, for as long as I can remember. We need to meet them halfway and go for a 6-week ban rather than outright ban. They've always said that. So this is not some new shiny idea. But I did see some exit polls about Ohio Issue 1, right? So this legislation that essentially makes abortion legal up until birth. This exit poll is very revealing about which gender, which race really supports abortion. So the exit polling on Ohio Issue 1 is showing broad support for abortion rights across demographics. So this is a tweet from Mike Hicksenbog, and he shares the screenshots of abortion. So I'll put it up here so you can see. 54% 50, what is this? Oh, I see. Okay, so 54% of men vote yes on abortion. 61% of females vote yes on abortion. It's pretty similar. That's a 7% difference. That's pretty close. Now, in terms of race, this is where it gets really interesting. 54% of white people vote yes on abortion. 74% of Hispanics vote yes on abortion. And 84% of Black people vote yes on abortion. 84%. So there are only 16% of Black people in Ohio who vote no on abortion. And with white people, it's like split pretty much down the middle. For Asian and other, there's not enough data. There's just not enough. Sex by race. Okay. White men, 50-50. Half say yes to abortion, half say no. White women, 57% say yes, 43% say no. Pretty similar to white men. White men and white women are essentially the same by several percentage points. Now let's talk about Black men. Black men, 87% say yes and only 13% say no. Black women, you might be surprised to see 81% fewer Black women than Black men say yes to abortion. 81% say yes and 19% say no. Of course, the age demographic, 82% of 18 to 29 years old say yes, 69% of 30 to 44, so that's like millennials say yes. 53% of 45 to 64 say yes, and 46% of 65 and over say yes. So these demographics are really, really interesting because what have we been told for a long time? And this is shown to be true in a lot of research and a lot of data of surveys. Women are the ones who are pushing abortion. Women are the ones who say yes. And people like to use this as an argument to take women's voting rights away. You guys know how I feel. I am anti-universal voting privileges. I think almost everyone's voting privileges should be taken away. Very few people should be able to vote. You have to definitely pass a basic civics test. You have to not be on any kind of government assistance or welfare. I even think we should go back to you have to own some kind of property to vote. You have to have some skin in the game to be able to vote. And you have to prove that you know what each candidate is for and against. And that would eliminate a lot of women and a lot of men. So Sovereign Bra, you may follow him on Twitter. This guy's name is Chase. He went viral on the Whatever podcast for, some comment he made about a tea person. He tweeted yesterday, "We gave women the right to vote, and they immediately used it to genocide millions of children in the womb and flood their countries with hostile invaders. Worked out well, eh?" 7,000 people liked the tweet. Everyone's like, yeah, women suck. Okay, you guys know that nobody enjoys bashing women more than I do. But this kind of stuff is not only completely untruthful, it's totally unproductive. You're blaming women for voting in abortion and allowing our country to be run over with hostile invaders like mass immigration. Let's go back to the abortion thing. Who passed Roe versus Wade? Was it a Supreme Court justice of women? Were they all women, the Supreme Court justices? If I remember correctly, I may not, but pretty sure I'm right here. It was all men. Men passed Roe versus Wade. And especially if you look at these exit polls, like men support abortion just as much as women do. And if you really want to look at who's running all of these pro-abortion legislation, it's men. Mostly men are leading. And this is the dichotomy that doesn't really make sense to me. Like, I am totally on board with the concept that men are designed to lead. Of course, I believe that, especially as, an Orthodox Christian, we believe that men were designed to lead, men were selected to lead. That doesn't mean that women are inferior. Women, we have enough roles, trust me. But if you want men to lead and to have power, you can't blame the women who you're supposed to lead when you don't lead the right way. Like, who gave women the right to vote? You think women just overtook the government and gave ourselves the right to vote. No, it was men. It was weak men who supported the idea and ushered in the idea that women should vote. So look, again, nobody loves bashing women more than I do, but we have to be honest here, and we can't just keep using like women suck as the scapegoat for the fact that our country is sick and it's run by cowardly, spineless people, most of whom are men. So this is why this kind of stuff is like, it's just, and you know what's crazy now is anytime you say something like this, anytime you remotely say something that's like not blaming women, you're automatically called a feminist now. Like I got called a feminist the other day online for something like ridiculous that was similar to what I'm saying now. Like that's just now, that's the right's way. It's like the right's version of calling people racist. Oh, you're racist. Oh, you're a feminist. Oh, you're saying something about women that's not totally bashing them like you're a feminist. No, like, what are we really trying to do here? This is the question. What are we really trying to do here? Are we really trying to evoke some kind of change? Do you want to change the country? Because if you want to change the country, you're not going to change it by saying that it's women's fault that we're voting in these abortion bills. Like it's not. Look at this. 54%. I lost the graph, but what is something like 54% of men say yes to abortion. So it's women's fault that the Ohio bill got passed? I mean, it's just absurd. It's not productive. This is why the right keeps losing. It doesn't even come down to money or funding or the GOP's platform. It comes down to the right focusing on the wrong stuff. The right has been on a long kick lately, blaming women for everything, pointing their fingers at women for, ruining society. And trust me, women have played a big enough role, but we're not holding men accountable enough. Both men and women, like we have made our country so sick to the core. We have such a spiritual sickness in our country that we celebrate. Most people celebrate the idea that babies are going to be murdered in the womb. That is not a gendered issue. That is not women versus men. Women are ruining the country. Men are not. That is a spiritual sickness. And the sooner that we can admit that and the sooner that we can move forward with that, the sooner that we might have a chance of saving the country. All of this gender war stuff that has recently come up with the red pill manosphere and then the sort of like rad femme, like radically feminine, like all the gender war stuff is so stupid. Like women do it too. Now women hate men. Like there's this new, what's her name? I forgot her name, but she does like the Redux Mag, like you're reverting back to women hating men again, saying that, oh, men are just these porn-addled creatures that they're just live in their mom's basement. They can't do anything. This gender war thing is not helping anybody. And it's making us focus on the wrong issues. So again, what are we really trying to do here? And this is what the right gets wrong about abortion in particular. They focus on it exclusively as a political issue. And of course, it's important to attack abortion from the political side and the legislation side. Of course it is. But we have to look at the side of culture just as much. Because culturally, our country loves death and loves murder and sees everything through the Marxist lens of oppressor versus oppressed. And that is because our culture has been programmed for many decades to think this way, to think that white people are evil, to think that women are oppressed, to think that people who have darker skin color are automatically oppressed, to think that immigrants should be given the same opportunities and privileges even though they're here illegally. Like this stuff has been shoved down our throats for decades, and it has not only been done in politics and in academia, it has been done in the culture, Hollywood, social media, influencers. And the right scoffs at the idea that we start there. But that's actually the best place for us to start, especially when it comes to abortion. We have to start attacking abortion from the cultural perspective, and that involves a lot of different things. I think that conservatives, as I've talked about before, I think for the most part, not all people on the right, there are definitely a lot of exceptions. I think for the most part, the right enjoys complaining about what the left is doing and complaining about the culture and not really doing much to change it. Like I see a lot of these huge conservative accounts online. They constantly share videos about Dylan Mulvaney and Sam Smith and whoever. And it's like, Everything that I know about Dylan Mulvaney and Sam Smith has been against my will. And it has come from conservative people because it's the outrage culture. It gets them more clicks, more views, more engagement, more comments, more followers when they complain about Sam Smith doing satanic stuff at the Grammys, Dylan Mulvaney doing whatever stuff. It just gets a lot of engagement, but it's just this whiny, pointless act. And I think conservatives are really bad at asking the question, what can we do to change the culture? And nobody really wants to be like conservatives. Like conservatives are not, they're not appealing. A lot, even like the young conservative, it's hard to think of like young conservative influencers who are appealing, who Gen Z like wants to look up to and wants to dress like and wants to be like. They're just not. The conservative movement is just kind of like full of boomers, and it's full of boomers who are trying to create content for Gen Z. And it just turns out to be like a cosplay of what they think Gen Z likes. So I think if we really want to change people's minds about abortion, we have to start thinking about how can we change the culture? And it's a really hard question. But for one, I think that conservatives need to get over their pride and admit that art and storytelling plays a really, really big role in what people believe. And this is what the left has done brilliantly over the last several decades. They do such a good job at telling stories. They do such a good job at tugging at people's heartstrings. And they do a really good job at presenting compassion. And the right, weirdly, likes to brag about the fact that they have no compassion and empathy. They think it's a flex. Oh, facts don't care about your feelings, bro. Yeah, we're all about logic and we're about logic and reason and facts. Yeah. Okay, that's all well and good, but people prefer storytelling over that. People prefer a story that is going to make them feel something. And that's why the left is winning. Because the right scoffs at the idea of empathy and compassion. And so when they attack the abortion issue, they don't want to use compassion and empathy. Live action does this well, though. This is why I think live action is leading the charge, because they do it with compassion. But when you see most of the right talk about abortion, they talk about women being hoes, women being sluts, women not closing their legs. And yeah, okay, that's part of the problem. But there's a lot of other reasons why abortion is taking place. There are a lot of moms who are already married and they abort their babies. Like there's a lot of reasons why women get abortions that are not only because they're sluts. And I think when you approach it from this really harsh perspective with no compassion, there is no woman who wants to listen to that. Do you want to change women's minds about abortion? It's really, again, the question, what are we really trying to do here? If you really want to change women's minds about abortion, you have to speak to women. And women respond less to the facts and the logic and the data. They respond less to that than they do to compassion, empathy, and storytelling. That's just the truth. And you can make fun of women all you want. Oh, those women, they're so emotional and stupid. Yeah, make fun of us all you want. You're going to lose. You're going to keep losing because the left is good at this. There's nothing wrong with our gender being more compassionate and more empathetic. There's nothing wrong with that. Just like there's nothing inherently wrong with men being more aggressive physically. Now, both of those things can have their bad side in certain situations, but neither are inherently bad. So I don't know why the right brags about the fact that they have no compassion and empathy. It's like, that's one of the reasons why you keep losing. And you know what's really ironic is this is not what the original conservatives thought. Edmund Burke, who is considered the father of the modern conservative movement as we know it today. You know what he used to say about human beings and how we respond to things? He said that human beings are not primarily logical, reasonable beings. We are passionate, we are prejudiced, and we respond more to empathy and to storytelling. This was the original conservative, okay? He's best known for ushering in some of the most important conservative values that the founding fathers used to write the founding documents of this country. Edmund Burke, look it up. A great book to read by him, the recent one I read by him, what was Edmund Burke, The First Conservative. That's what it's called. Read it by Jesse Norman. And there's a whole section in there how he talks about it's not fruitful to lead with logic and reason. And it's actually harmful for human beings to think that they are primarily logical and reasonable. Logic and reason have their place. Nobody's saying that you should throw logic and reason out the window, but you're not appealing to people and you're not going to win people over and you're not going to lead effectively if you primarily put your focus on logic and reason. And guess what? That's exactly what conservatives are doing today. Conservatives today are doing the exact opposite of what the first conservative was telling them to do. This is why it's so frustrating. I get so frustrated when I see conservatives laughing at the left for being compassionate. And the thing about the left is it's fake compassion. The thing about the right is we have truth on our side. So we have true compassion, which is much more appealing than the fake compassion that comes out of evil ideologies. Do you guys get it? Do you get it? We are in such a winning position because we have the truth. All we have to do is be compassionate and truthful. But no conservative is willing to do that. All of these conservatives need to read Edmund Burke because he talks so eloquently about how passionate human beings are. We respond from the heart. That's how we initially respond to things. And that's where we need to start if we want to change people's minds about abortion, especially women, especially changing the hearts of women. Because even though men support abortion statistically in the polls, they support abortion just as much as women do. If we changed women's minds on abortion before men, women would be the ones to not get abortions. Even if the men wanted them to, women would not get abortions. It would pretty much solve the issue. So if we approach the abortion topic with more compassion, for example, we have to be honest about the fact that the abortion industry preys on women. Not every single woman who gets an abortion is a slut, an OnlyFans model who had too much sex with random dudes and got pregnant. No, not every single woman who gets an abortion is like that. And if we keep attacking the issue and claiming that every woman who gets an abortion is that person, you're going to lose. There are a lot of women who mean well, who really think that, they're with a good boyfriend, they have sex, they get pregnant, and they're convinced by the forces around them, by their friends, by their family, by culture, that abortion is the right thing to do. What if we were more compassionate? What if we were more empathetic with her position and we told her that you are a victim of the predatory abortion industry, which is hand in hand with the conventional medical system? They lie to you. They manipulate you at your most vulnerable position in life. And having been pregnant, I'm a mom. It is a vulnerable position to be in. And I don't know why we are not giving more women compassion and empathy, because if we did, they might be willing to come over to our side. So I think that's the most important thing to start with when it comes to abortion. The political stuff is important, and we should keep cracking at it. We should keep putting pressure on the GOP to put more funding into anti-abortion initiatives. But if we really, really, really want to change people's minds, especially women, we got to start from culture, and we got to start from a place of compassion and love. We have to start from a place of love. And this is one of the reasons why I love Orthodox Christianity, because there's so much humility and there's so much love in it. And this was a great little clip that was shared by one of my Twitter friends. Her name is Amy the artist online. She's also an Orthodox Christian. She shared a little clip that described the difference between Western Christianity and Eastern Christianity. And Western Christianity tends the language around it and the model of Christianity, it tends to look at it like a courtroom, like you're going to be judged. But the way that Eastern Christianity and Orthodoxy sees it is it's a hospital where Christ is the greatest physician. And you are going to be cared for. You're going to be healed. For the first time in your life, you're going to be healed. And I think that message of redemption and forgiveness and telling women that you can come back from anything. There is always redemption there for you. I think that message is so much more powerful. And I think it would bring so many more women to our side. Nobody's saying that there's no such thing as judgment. Nobody's saying there's no such thing as consequence. Of course there is. Everyone is going to face consequences for their actions. But everyone is able to receive forgiveness and redemption if they are willing to ask for it. And that is the message that we have to be leading with. There is always a way back, even from something like abortion. And the right is terrible at sending that message. And I wish the right were better at making art, at making movies and TV shows that told stories, powerful stories about women who chose life, powerful stories about motherhood and family. I just rewatched this movie and I talked about it a little bit on my Instagram, my stories, and a little bit in my women's group, The Shift, the movie Arrival. If you have ever listened to me on a podcast or on social media, you've probably heard me talk about this movie. It's my favorite movie in the whole wide world. Came out in 2016, filmed by Denis Villeneuve. Amy Adams is the protagonist. She got an Oscar snub for that movie. She should have definitely got an Oscar for that. Jeremy Renner, I think that's his name, is the other lead in the movie. And it's based on a short story called The Story of You. And the story is actually about aliens arriving on Earth. And it is the most pro-life, I don't use that term, it is the most anti-abortion film that I think exists today in Hollywood, without outwardly meaning to be. And so sometimes when I see the right try to do movies or, I'm not talking about documentaries, I'm talking about films. Anytime I see the right do movies, they just are way too on the nose with the message. It's like, this is a story about a woman being powerful and being a strong mother. And it's just too on the nose. It's not a good piece of art. But the movie Arrival, if you haven't watched it, please go watch it, because it is... The story is not really about motherhood. It's definitely not about abortion, but it tells the most powerful story of a woman who knows that if she chooses this path, she's going to have a child that meets some of the worst suffering in the world. And she chooses to do it anyway. She chooses life because life is worth it. Life is worth living. Family is worth it. Love is worth it. Motherhood is worth it. Even if you know you are going to face some severe challenges. And everyone's going to face challenges. Everyone's going to face suffering, because that's like the only thing that we are all equally guaranteed in life. And this movie Arrival tells this story in the most powerful way. At the end of it, you are just floored. I don't want to give it away. Maybe I'll do an entire episode one day on Arrival. Once you guys have watched it, we'll break it down. And I'll do an entire episode on Arrival. But it is really the most powerful anti-abortion story out there. And the right just doesn't even think about doing art like this. They don't think it matters. But if they did invest their time and their energy and their money into making films, making TV shows that told powerful stories like this and that moved people's hearts, I think it would do a lot more good than they think it would. Sometimes we're just way too focused on logic and reason and facts and data. They matter, but I don't think they are really going to be the thing that changes people's minds in the end. So that's all I got for today. I wanted to actually show a viral TikTok and talk about the public school system, but we'll do that next time. It's a great topic and I want to get into that. But if you like the episode, please share, subscribe, send it to somebody that you think would enjoy it. And let's focus on changing the culture. And a lot of people ask me, what can I do? What can I do myself to help the movement? And I always say the most important thing you can do is just to live a life that's so loving and so great and shine so bright that people can't look away. And they'll look at you and they're like, what does that person have that I don't have? And I think we can do that through our faith. We can do that through something as simple as taking care of ourselves, taking care of our family, being joyful, being grateful for everything we have. And you live a life that other people look at and they're like, there's something about that person. I want what that person has. I think those ripple effects also make a big difference. It's not like everyone has to go out and, picket and protest about certain issues. It's not like everyone has to do that all the time. You can make a very positive influence in your life by just living a certain way and having people witness that. So take care of yourselves, guys, and we'll do another episode soon. See you later.